It's really hard to pay for guaranteed articles that are actually going to get a lot of eyeballs and actually going to change your business overnight. The only way to do that is through working with a PR agency like us, who focuses on relationships and storytelling.
Welcome back. We are here on the Scaling Secrets podcast with Dr. Jay Feldman. Jay is the founder of Otter Public Relations, but he's not your average entrepreneur. He has a background in osteopathic medical doctoring. He transitioned into the business world. He's built an 8-figure PR agency that has taken the industry by storm. It is called Otter PR. Jay is an expert in lead generation, biohacking, digital marketing. He has a massive social media following, and he is here to share his secrets to success. So, Dr. Jay, glad to be speaking with you.
Robert, thanks for having me. I'm looking forward to the interview here.
So am I. And so you meet people from all sorts of backgrounds, but you have quite a unique background, this journey from medicine to business. So can you tell us about this sort of transition? How do you go from this medical background into entrepreneurship?
It's funny. I get it all the time, and I like to encourage anyone who's locked into a professional career like being a doctor or a lawyer and you're unhappy to think about what I'm about to say as a real possibility, not just something that somebody did, but definitely a pivot in the journey, right? You're raised to be a doctor. Grandma and dad are raising Jay, the plastic surgeon, and I thought that's all there was. My dad was a CPA. We have no entrepreneurship in our family at all. So I followed the path. I was a good student. I got into medical school. And then I did the brilliant thing of taking a year off, a gap year, between graduating college and going to medical school. During that year, I lived with my friend Jesse Henry. He was the president of the Entrepreneurship Club at Florida State. I was working as a scribe in the emergency room, making $10 an hour just to show, medical schools that I could do something, and using my skills in medicine and medical terminology. But at that time, I was sitting there for so many hours, so bored as a medical scribe, sometimes overnight, and making $10 an hour. But I'm like, what can I do to either learn more or make more money? So what I started doing, I was always a good writer. I would help people write their academic papers, their personal statements, and this became sort of a business. I was helping friends of friends, and then total strangers write lots of essays, and sometimes charging $50 to $100 a page. So I was making so much more money doing this than I was as a medical scribe. And at one point during that business, I was making more than some of the family doctors that I was working with. That job paid, or that business paid me my career all the way through Europe. I traveled Europe for 2 months before I actually started medical school. And I was like, wow, this is a lot of fun. I loved building the business. I loved making the money. And I was shocked at how much money I could make, and it was all mine. So that was kind of my intro into business. And then I read all of the books, the Bible of entrepreneurship, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Think and Grow Rich, all of the things that brainwash you into, thinking a job is a sheep, is a cog in the wheel, and the only way to secure freedom is entrepreneurship. And I carried that all the way through medical school. Man, I started 2 more businesses while I was a medical student, one as a supplement company, and then another as a marketing agency for doctors and medical schools and clinics. And both of those did really well. I learned a lot of skills in marketing. Turns out I was a natural in sales and marketing, and I loved it. I had a passion for it. And it wasn't until my first year of residency as a family medicine doctor that I realized I was making a lot more than all of the doctors that I was around. I couldn't find one person that I wanted to be when I got older that I was working with. Everyone seemed miserable. Everyone seemed like they were at a dead end. And all I wanted to do was build business. So eventually it hit a point where I had a conflict with my residency program over something that I posted on social media. And they basically faced me with an ultimatum. They said, Jay, you either need to shut down your businesses and your social media, or I don't think you have a future here at this program. And honestly, it was one of the hardest decisions I've ever made, because my whole identity was invested into medicine. But it was also the easiest decision I've ever made, because I had already had success in business. I was making more than I would ever make as a doctor, as a resident. So what is the obvious thing to do? It's to do what's working and to do what makes you happy. So I pulled the plug, and I haven't looked back since.
Well, thank you for your answer. And I love hearing about the entrepreneurial factors that you mentioned of getting messy early and finding these mentors in your orbit to figure out what needs to be done instead of your entrepreneurial dream just being a dream in the future. And so since you've gone on this entrepreneurial journey, you founded this company called Otter PR, which you have scaled to $10 million, which is super impressive. So can you share with us some of the key strategies or principles that have allowed you to grow this super bigly?
Yeah, happy to. And thanks for asking. I think a lot of people see, I know I used to, people holding up that $10 million award and they're like, how the hell do I get from A to Z? It looks like an impossible mountain to climb. But looking back at it, it is crazy. You know, we've been blessed. I've worked my ass off. Don't get me wrong. But the steps that it took to get there were small ones. They were single hires. They were one addition that we made to our marketing. They're one other new thing that I learned. They're one conference that I went to. So the steps, I think, from going to an entrepreneur, you know, you're usually doing a service for somebody, or you've got one product that you're selling to somebody and it's just you running the show, or maybe a partner if you're lucky, to an organization that's doing $10 million a year. There's a lot of things that have to happen in between. The main ones, I think, are when you're getting started, really focusing on your expertise, mastering your craft. And maybe that means mastering a physical product as well, but really getting good at what it is that you're offering. If you're just trying to offer the same, BS white label service as everybody else, or you're trying to arbitrage something, there's no way that you're going to be able to scale. You might make some money, you might do okay, it might even last a while, but you're never going to get to that big mark, that $10 million per year. So the first thing is that master your craft, and then really hone in your product. After that, what's really important is figuring out what your weaknesses are, or what you're spending a lot of time doing. That's not low-hanging fruit, that's not making you a lot of money, and outsourcing those tasks one at a time. And that's where team building comes in. And this is one of the hardest things to do as an entrepreneur, is to find, recruit, and train good people. And even as we've scaled, that's still the hardest thing to do, but the most important, especially when you're just starting off. Because when you're starting, you're selling, you're marketing, you're doing all of your accounting, you're doing all of your legal, you're doing all of your client management. And it's all of your time. Imagine if you could just spend all of your time doing just the sales or just the marketing, whatever it is that your superpower is. You want to get to that point where you're spending all of your time doing that as much as you can and filling in all of the gaps with people that you trust who are good and really invested in your mission. And there's a lot of scaling pains that will present themselves along the way, like HR, like legal. You'll run into trouble and you're going to need to adapt. But the key concept here is one step at a time, one person, one hire at a time, so that you can spend all of your time doing the highest leverage activity. And you need to be selling something that's good and unique in the marketplace. If you're just trying to sell some BS that everybody else is, your company's going to burn out. You're going to have bad reviews. You're not going to be able to charge what you need to in order to scale and to hire. So really either be the best or be unique.
Be the best or be unique. And what I'm hearing from you and your answer here is that it's so important to have that entrepreneurial obsession and to have the focus. That way you can put in this long-term thinking. That way you can innovate. That way you're not just being lazy, you're not arbitraging, you're making something that's really delivering value. And then you're saying how it's important it is to just always be aware of the problems and what the next step is and pile on all of these tasks, these responsibilities, and which that in itself is a unique mindset. But then once you pile in doing all this work yourself and getting all the bugs worked out, then it's time to kind of unload each task at a time to people, which it seems like it's going from mindset 1 to mindset 2 to mindset 3, just so many problems to be solved, so much work to be done, so much thinking to be done. And it's cool to hear and think about just this process that you've gone through. And so now you've built up this company, Otter PR. And when you hear about things like public relations, and sometimes it's easy to kind of discount it as these vague promotions, right? And my understanding about what makes you unique, because we were just talking about being special and different in the marketplace, is that you're all about lead generation. So that way our PR actually goes somewhere, does something, means something. So can you tell us about that, about what lead generation as far as PR and B2B means for you and what we should be doing differently as opposed to the stereotypes you hear?
Sure. So let me clarify first. So public relations, we've got two entities. We've got Otter PR, and I'd like to at some point turn Otter into a marketing Death Star, a marketing powerhouse that hits every different aspect of marketing, because marketing is a giant umbrella. Otter PR focuses on public relations. OtterLeads.ai focuses on lead generation. My expertise is in lead generation. So I'd say in general, if you're looking for leads and you're looking for sales and you're looking to add to your bottom line, PR is probably not the first place you should be spending your dollar. No PR agency is going to be able to guarantee leads or ROI from PR. PR is one of those things that's like SEO or personal branding. You know you should do it. You know you need to do it, especially if you want a brand that's going to last a long time and have longevity and success. You need to be spending money here. In fact, Bill Gates famously quoted, "If I was down to my last dime, I would spend it on public relations." And there's a good reason for it. You need to build trust. You need to build brand equity. And the only way to do that is with PR. Now, as to your question about some of the stereotypes around public relations, because even me, when I hear someone in my DMs or call me and they say, "Hey, I'm a PR agency, I'd love to help you with something," my first thought goes to, they're trying to sell me a Forbes article. They're trying to get me placed in some paid listicle. And that's what a lot of people think now when they hear PR, because that's the easy stuff. That's the stuff that everybody's doing. They're essentially arbitraging articles. They're probably not even going right to the source. They're paying somebody to publish something in somebody's news publication and then taking money and then hoping that they get published. That's not traditional PR. That's not earned media. That's not what we focus on. So when I said either be good or be unique, that's a good example of someone who starts a business to make a few bucks, and they can generally do that. You know, I can sell you a Forbes article for $7,000, go turn around and pay another agency $5,000, and I could make some good money. But that's not a sustainable. It's not a good business model. What we do is we compete with the traditional PR agencies in New York who work for some of the biggest brands on earth, and they charge $40,000 a month, and their focus is getting earned organic media coverage for actual experts, actual companies who are doing something interesting and media worthy. That's the type of media coverage that gets seen by a lot of people, that gets shared, that changes businesses overnight. It's really hard to pay for guaranteed articles that are actually going to get a lot of eyeballs and actually going to change your business overnight. The only way to do that is through working with a PR agency like us who focuses on relationships and storytelling. And that's what you get when you hire a good PR agency, and you're paying them a lot of money. You're paying for the relationships, you're paying for the access, and you're paying for the proven methods of storytelling.
I love it. And you think about that a lot when you see like the news and there's some story and there's some guest and they've done something amazing. And there's that aspect of storytelling that you mentioned. And then you also sometimes think in the back of your mind, like, what phone call did they make, or what channel did they go through, and how long did that take to book that speaking slot, basically. And so since we're talking about storytelling here, then maybe it's time to put you on the spot, and so that way you can practice what you preach, right? So do you have any fun story to share with us about you and your agency where you made this happen, where someone said, well, I have this business, I have this message to get out, and then how do you then translate that into the connections and the storytelling? Tell us about some situation where you worked your magic.
Yeah, happy to. And we've got countless success stories of companies who have come to us with something interesting that they were doing. And it's our job to make the public think it's interesting and make them actually care about it. And that can be really hard to do. One case study I'd say that I have that comes to mind first, we worked with a company called Les Bijoux very early on when we were a PR agency. So this was the start of 2020. COVID had just hit, and hotels were pretty much completely shut down. And any mention of opening the hotel to the public was reacted with major public scrutiny because absolutely not. Can't have people, congregating in a common room or anything like that. So this Hotel Le Bijou came to us with a really interesting idea. They wanted to convert their hotel into a COVID-friendly quarantine center using artificial intelligence. So they basically converted their rooms into places where high-value guests can go, high net worth guests can go and quarantine in a very high luxury place. During the lockdowns, this was a major story. This broke the news, broke the internet. If you go and search Le Bijou COVID, you'll see Washington Post, Forbes, Time, Insider. This hit everywhere. And it was up to us to make sure that this wasn't framed in a negative light. Because they were already getting some of that pushback from some media contacts. And we wanted to make sure that when we ran the story, we ran it and spun it as positively as possible. What they were doing in a positive way to promote quarantine, to stop the spread, and as an attraction for high net worth individuals to go spend some time with Le Bijou. It was a massive success story, but a risk, because we knew like this could end the company, this could end us, but it ended up working really well, and we're very proud of our work with them.
That sounds like a lot of fun. And what's the point if you're not taking at least a little bit of a calculated risk and having some kind of fun? And you mentioned even a little bit of that aspect of taking something that on the surface might be just mundane, boring, and everyday, and then making it more exciting. That way you're excited about it, and then the people that you want to care about this message are excited as well. And so hearing that story, what are the prerequisites to working with your agency? Like in that case, they kind of said, well, here's what we want to accomplish. Here's what we want to solve. Do you ever have some company that comes to you and says, we have no idea, or do they all come to you with a mission?
They definitely don't all come to us with a mission or even a media-worthy story. And this is where PR gets complicated, especially from a sales perspective. Because the truth is, not every company is a good fit for using PR. Not every company will get equal value from using this marketing strategy. Just like not every company is going to get the same value out of using organic social media as a marketing avenue. For example, the local mechanic might not be a good fit to invest a lot of money into social media. The guy who sells air conditioners might not get a lot of value out of selling social media, out of organic social. Well, the life coach or the spiritual coach is going to get a lot of value. They're going to share their expertise and generate clients. PR is kind of the same way. So if you have something, a product, a service, something that's interesting, unique in the marketplace that people are actually excited about, that people care about, and that the media is interested in and actually wants to cover, those companies, those people are going to do very well with PR, because now you can actually use the channels and the network from all of these very established media publications and TV stations. But yes, there are often scenarios where people or companies will come to us and say, hey, we're a marketing agency. We do SEO. We would love, for you to be our PR agency and to get lots of coverage. In that case, if you're an SEO agency, there's really nothing interesting going on there in 95% of the time. So we try and be honest and only take on clients that we're confident we can get results for, because if we were to take on clients like that and do our method of PR, which is earned coverage for them, the good chance is they're going to spend 3 to 6 months worth of retainer fees with us, and nothing good is going to happen and nobody's going to be happy. So we're blessed now to have come to a point where we do attract lots of companies, lots of people that do have really interesting stories. So we have no shortage of clients to work with. But I would say no matter what your business is, if you really can't help somebody, don't try and help them. Don't take their money. Take the money from people you can actually help and get results for.
Fair enough. And you've mentioned this concept, earned coverage, a few times. And just to make sure that we understand it, like, what is that? Like, what does it mean to not have the earned coverage, and what does it mean to have earned coverage?
Sure. So in the PR world, I would say there's earned coverage versus paid coverage. The paid coverage, as I kind of mentioned earlier, is the guaranteed articles, the article arbitrage. I pay a company like LA Weekly or an agency even to get me guaranteed publication in somewhere like LA Weekly. Now, that publication is going to say pretty much whatever I want it to. It may or may not have a sponsored tag. You don't always know if it was paid for or not. Sometimes it's a contributor's name on the top of that article. And paid coverage is pretty much what it sounds like. You pay a set fee. You know you're going to get published in a designated publication within a set time frame, and it's going to say what you think it's going to say. Earned coverage is a different story. This is where you're taking a company or a person that genuinely has an interesting story, and you're calling your friend who's a journalist or a reporter. Maybe you're emailing them, and you say, "Hey, I'm working with Robert. He's a podcast host, just did this amazing thing, raised all this money for charity, and he would love to share his story with you and do an interview." And our contact at Fox Business is going to say, "Yeah, I'd love to interview Robert. When's he available?" We set up the interview, and he does that interview because the Fox Business audience is genuinely interested in what Robert did. So that's earned coverage. Nobody's being paid. We're not paying that Fox Business reporter. We can't guarantee publication. And that Fox reporter is going to write and publish whatever the hell he and his editor want. And we have no final say over it. Now, it might not sound like a great deal, but at the end of the day, that's the story that's going to get all the eyeballs, not the one that you paid for on LA Weekly.
That makes perfect sense. And it seems like there's maybe like three paths here, right? There's the path of kind of doing the traditional marketing or doing what you've been doing and whatever those results are. And then there is kind of this paid option. And then there's the more fun option, which is this earned coverage. And if someone out there says, well, can I look up these news stations and contact them? Is it safe to say that the area where you and your company deliver is that you have these existing contacts, so there's not all this time wasted, talking to thousands of different people, but is it safe to say there's like a language of PR, and that when you kind of are tapped into what these news outlets are looking for, and you can just kind of position these things where there's like a higher rate of success?
100%. And just to go back to what you said about 3 avenues, there's more like 100 different avenues to market your business. There's really 2 avenues for PR. PR is just one of the little rings in the giant marketing umbrella that exists. But if you do decide to pursue PR and you want to get earned coverage for yourself, what's the best way to do it? Well, yeah, you hit the nail on the head when you said that you save a lot of time trying to build the relationship with the person that you're pitching to. Journalists and reporters get cold email, cold called, and requested on social media all the time. They're one of the most spammed people on earth for that exact purpose. Most of it just goes right to their junk, and a lot of it's filtered to their junk because they have these filters set up. Now, the reason that you go with a PR agency and sometimes pay them a lot of money is because we're not cold emailing reporters. We actually have relationships with people at key publications and networks around the world that we've cultivated over years, that we've cultivated through personal relationships, social media, and sharing those connections between our agency. So 1, you get the benefit of you're not cold emailing a stranger who doesn't want your email, and you're probably not doing a very good job of it. It's the storytelling part of it. If you go with somebody like Otter PR or one of the other high-ticket PR agencies, the ones who do traditional earned coverage, you're getting direct access to the relationships, which is probably the most valuable part. And second, the story that we're telling that reporter or journalist is not only one that we know is going to resonate with them because we know that journalist and reporter, we know what they're writing about, we know what's happening in the media cycle. You don't know those things. You're going to send them a pitch or a press release that's not relevant to them, that's not relevant to what's going on in the world right now. And they don't really want it because they don't know who you are and they're overwhelmed with stories. So that's why you work with a PR agency and you have a lot more success. Can you do it on your own? Yeah, and when we started, that's pretty much what we were doing. Is it successful? Sometimes. But if you're somebody who values your time and wants success in a set amount of time, then you might as well expedite it and hire a professional. That's why we typically work with established businesses who don't want to go try and figure this out on their own. They want results and they want to hire the best.
So, Jay, with all of the things that can be done with PR and all the adventures that you've had, is there any sort of strategy that you think is either cutting edge or excites you personally as far as just things that you've done or could be done?
Some things that really excite me about PR is kind of what we're doing right now. So the media landscape has changed a lot over the last 10 years and is still changing a lot. So what excites me is kind of the current opportunity to leave some of our old school competition in the dust. So one of the reasons that I think Otter PR has grown so fast is because we're competing in a space that's been dominated by all of the old school New York Edelman type PR firms for a century. These firms charge $40,000 to $50,000 per month, sometimes with a $1 million minimum retainer. And their focus is outdated. They're not adapting AI. They're not pitching to new forms of media. They're not using influencers. They're not using podcasts. So what excites me the most about being in PR right now is, one, we're in a blue ocean. So we're competing with companies who are really antiquated and outdated. That gives us a massive advantage. Two, we're leveraging technology for PR in a way that nobody else is doing right now. So we're using AI not just to write pitches, press releases, and we're using it as a tool, not as a replacement. But we're also using it to work with the media cycle to figure out what stories are relevant, who's writing about what, and to be the fastest PR agency to respond to every single media cycle. And I think that's put our clients landslides above everybody else because we're still small, new, nimble. We can adapt new technologies, implement them across our organization faster and more efficiently than any of these other companies can. That excites me.
And I could tell you're excited, and you are right that this is an interesting time to be in business, especially in your industry where you're competing against these established, maybe bloated or lazy, or at the very least, just they've been doing things for all this time because that's just the way things have been done. And now it's time for you to come along and disrupt them and be the Uber or the Airbnb and to use some of these cutting edge tools like AI, like you said, to tap into the news cycle, to do the pitches, to do all these amazing things and move fast, break stuff and experiment. And so you also, we kind of touched a little bit almost just now on this topic of the entrepreneurialism. So now that we covered what excites you about the PR world, what is it about entrepreneurialism that you think you do better than anyone else? Or what do you think people need to just be more tuned in and tapped in on as far as just these entrepreneurial journeys we're on?
So entrepreneurship's such an interesting thing because you're the only limiting factor. No one tells you what to do, how to do it, or how to problem solve. Everything that you figure out and do is all on you, which is really exciting, but it's also the reason that a lot of people fail at it. A lot of people, especially where I come from, in the medical school realm, in academia, people are very good when they're told, here's what you need to study, this is what you're going to be tested on, and success is you doing well on that test. Entrepreneurship is not like that at all. It requires creativity, ingenuity, and I think the creative people eventually come out on top and win. So as an entrepreneur, I think my superpower is being really good at seeing things from like a macro standpoint, a bird's eye. Where's the economy going? What new business or product is going to make us the most money with where we are and who we're serving right now? So for example, we have an amazing PR offer, an amazing PR team, but half the people we were talking to were either too early to hire a PR agency and to pay us PR agency rates, or their only question is, how is this going to make me money? How is this going to get me leads and sales? So to all those people, I didn't want to turn them away. Now, instead, we have something else to sell them that is an answer for all of their questions. How do we grow? Lead generation. I want ROI and I want more sales. Boom. You don't want to buy PR. You want to buy lead generation. And it's something that I've mastered. I've built offers around it. Now I've built marketing campaigns around it. All of those things were from my hands. I designed the landing pages, the marketing materials, the funnels, the offers. I built the team around it. I built the SOPs for that team. So I think entrepreneurship is about seeing those openings and being able to implement fast and well enough where it won't break. So all of those things I built within 3 to 6 months, pretty much all by myself. And I did it at a speed which was actually relevant to making us money right now. You know, a lot of people will have these ideas and set some things in motion, and then they'll get bottlenecked with the web developer, and they'll get bottlenecked with the marketing guy or their ads guy. So good entrepreneurs are able to handle those bottlenecks themselves. If they can't, they go figure it out, go learn it. If you don't know how to run ads, go learn. If you don't know how to build a landing page, go learn. So I think that's my superpower, and I think that's what I recommend other entrepreneurs learn how to do if you don't already know how to do it. And I think that's a good predictor of success as well.
And I think that centers around just the theme that has formed in our conversation here, that when people think about entrepreneurs, you think about the fun, visionary aspect of it, right? How, like, Henry Ford said, if I asked people what they wanted, they would have said faster horses. Or you think about, oh, well, Walt Disney looked at the swamp and said, here's this Disney World I can build. And that's great, and that's a good factor in it. But you're also saying that what's also important is the practicality, is the proof of concept of sure have the big ideas and sure have the vision and innovate and be creative, but also make it work and make money and make it sustain and make it a company that you can grow. So that way you're not just stuck in the box studying for the test, getting an A+ on the assignment. You're actually growing something that can just be built towards the future. And so there's some exciting things that you've done. And so can you tell us about some of these companies? Like we mentioned Otter PR and Otter Leads, and tell us about, like, what are the next steps to be taken here? Like, you have your podcast Mentors Collective. So if someone wants to kind of tap more into the Dr. J world, what are the paths that they should take, and what are the many call to actions?
Thanks, Robert. I guess lots of calls to action because I got a lot of stuff going on. So definitely follow me on social media. So I've got two, right? I'm a medical doctor, and I keep that separate from all the marketing stuff. So if you're interested in medicine, biohacking, living longer, go to @Dr. Jay Feldman. Follow me on Instagram. And if you're interested in marketing or you're a business owner, CEO, go to CMO Jay Feldman on Instagram. And those are good hubs. Now, if you're a company and you're already established, you're doing at least $1 million a year, and you're doing something innovative, creative, and you want to build reputation, brand authority, otterpr.com. Go schedule a call with one of our PR experts. I'd love to see if we're a good fit for helping you to do that. And if you're a business who's maybe just starting, or maybe you're well established and you need help filling your sales pipeline, generating more high quality, qualified leads for that company. And if you sell to businesses, everybody needs this. In fact, we also hire and employ other lead generation agencies because if they make us money every month, why wouldn't we keep them on board? So go to otterleads.ai and schedule a call with one of our lead generation experts and see if we can help you with that as well.
Fantastic. I love it. You're quite the problem solver here, Dr. J, as far as, like you said earlier, you had this Otter PR offer, and then when some people weren't quite the right fit, you said, I keep coming across this problem so many times. Let me just build some other solution, such as otterleads.ai. And so as we're wrapping up our conversation here, Dr. J, it's always good, you're in the PR industry, to have like a sound bite, a quotable, something really profound and that really stays with us and lasts with us. So with all the books you've read and all the learning that you've done, does anything really stick out as far as a current favorite quote, moral, or lesson? Does anything come to mind, quote, moral, or lesson?
Let's do a lesson. And as a PR expert, like you said, I stay pretty in tune with what's going on in the media. And also I stay very in tune with what's going on around me in the business world. And one thing that I've seen happen over and over again, and nobody thinks that this is going to happen until it actually happens, is the cancel culture community. So businesses are all vulnerable to this. And all it takes is one of your employees, not even you, saying something out of character that doesn't represent your business well, before the entire Twitterverse or Reddit community comes after your business as a whole. And this can bury your company overnight. So there's a lot of ways to protect against this. One, you got to cultivate a good community within your company. But the most important thing is protecting yourself with PR. So this is the reason I think every established business needs a PR agency on retainer. They need a publicist because we can audit those problems. We can find them before they become real problems, real scary cancels that are happening in the media. If you come to us with a fire for crisis consulting, it's probably not that it's too late. There's a lot of mitigation that we can do. But the best thing that you can do is protect yourself with positive media coverage, set up systems so that if anything does happen, we can intervene quickly and put that fire out while it's still a little kindling, little spark. But you'd be surprised how many businesses go under every single day because of this crazy political world that we live in. So protect yourself with PR, find a publicist. If your business is in it for the long run or you're a personal brand, it's a no-brainer. It's something that you absolutely need to invest in. So that's my number one lesson for established business owners out there.
And thank you for that lesson. That's interesting to think about, that you can snuff out the flames before they get too big, and there's many uses for PR that we may not have thought about. And so it is time now to go to Otter PR or otterleads.ai. Dr. Jay Feldman, DO, glad to speak with you.
Great to speak with you, Robert. Thank you.